Hi, this is my review for the 2009 horror thriller film The House of the Devil. It stars Jocelin Donahue, Tom Noonan, Mary Woronov, Greta Gerwig, AJ Bowen, Dee Wallace, and Heather Robb. This is one of my favorite horror thriller films that I've seen, probably among my top 5 or top 10. And so let me tell you a little bit about its basic plot. It's this college girl. Even though it was made just about 5 or 6 years ago, it takes place in the early 1980s. The main star is this college girl who lives on campus, played by Jocelin Donahue, named Samantha, and she's looking for all these ways to make money. She's not in contact with her parents. She's had a falling out with them, so she's kind of trying to scrape by on her own. She puts all these flyers up around town, telling people that, advertising that she's willing to babysit. And she's disappointed. Weeks go by, she doesn't get any responses, but then all of a sudden she gets this call from this mysterious old man telling her that he could use her help for a night, that he has a baby grandson that he needs watched while he and his wife go out. And she agrees to it. It's a house way, way out of town, out in the country. Her best friend drives her out to the house. And when she meets the old man, he lives in this giant old mansion. She meets the old man and his wife. And she's a little creeped out by him at first, and even more creeped out when he tells her that he doesn't actually have a child that he wants her to babysit. It's just it's actually his elderly, demented old mother who pretty much lives in her bedroom, and she's really kind of freaked out at first, but then he offers her a bunch more money. He's like, okay, I originally offered to pay you $50. How about 100? And she hesitates a little more. He's like, how about 200? And then she's like, how about 300? And he's like, okay. And so she takes the deal reluctantly. And her friend leaves because the old couple has made it clear that she's not to have any guests or visitors or unknown people in their house. So she spends a while at the house. She kind of gets through the night, doing it. She's really nervous the entire time, but she does all kinds of little things to kind of keep her mind off of the creepiness of the house she's in and the crazy old woman upstairs. She listens to music, she dances. I won't spoil the rest of the plot, but a lot of pretty bad stuff goes down later on. It turns out that the owners of the house are Satanists, that the whole thing has largely been a trap for her. This movie is, like I've said, one of my favorite horror films that I've seen. An interesting thing about this film that makes it stand out from a lot of other movies, even though it was made in 2009, it looks like it was straight out of the 1980s. It has kind of coloring and filming techniques that are very characteristic of early 1980s films. The clothing and dress and technology is all very 80s-ish. And what appealed to me most of all is the music. There's a great selection of 1980s music that plays throughout. Most notably, the song "One Thing Leads to Another" by The Fix. One of the scenes in which she has like this, one of those portable CD players you used to see in the 80s and 90s. She has her headphones on and she's just like bopping away, like dancing away to that song in the creepy old house, trying to get her mind off of all the creepy stuff. The opening, the tune that I really like, that's my favorite in this movie, that the credits play over and the film opens up to, is kind of as a musical, like a cover of the song "Moving in Stereo" by the Cars. None of their lyrics are there, but it like the tune plays, and it's a really, really good. Even though I really like the original song by the Cars, moving in stereo, I actually like this version, just the tune itself, even better. But they do a really good job of making this movie feel like it was made in a completely different era, which is the era it was set in. It's very much based on the original Halloween movies, which were made, I think the first one came out in 1980. It's from that exact same era. And I thought that the build-up in this movie was great. There aren't a lot of like blood and guts throughout, but there's a lot of very great suspenseful build-up. The scenes when Samantha is in the house, you just feel kind of this constant dread. She's a very relatable character. A very relatable character, especially if you're a college student. And you really feel for her. There's a lot of good build-up. A lot of creepy things happen throughout her time in the house that she tries to convince herself are due to just, natural occurrences, but it turns out they're not. You as a viewer have a good amount of knowledge. You see some things that she doesn't, and you just want to scream out at her, look behind you, or look out the window, or stuff like that. But the build-up is great. There's a very creepy feel, throughout the movie that she's being watched. And it's even creepier because, like I've said, this takes place in the 80s. There weren't any cell phones, or her only way of getting in touch with anybody outside of the house is this crappy old brown wall phone that the old couple has, and it turns out that it doesn't even work. Every time she picks up the phone and talks to someone else, it actually goes through to some third party, and she doesn't have a cell phone or a laptop or anything like that. She's pretty much stuck. She doesn't have a car because her friend drives her back and forth, and her friend has to leave. And her friend doesn't. Let's just say her friend isn't coming back. I won't spoil that, but the movie doesn't end too well for her friend. But this theme of Satanism is also one that makes the film very, very creepy. I've always thought films dealing with Satanism and the occult are very eerie. The acting is really good. Jocelin Donahue plays the main character, Samantha. A lot of people might remember her from Insidious 2. She played one of the main characters in that one. I think she's a really good actress. You can tell she does a good job of showing her fear and kind of the intimidation she feels throughout, but at the same time, there's a boldness and a braveness to the character that's really admirable. She's also really pretty, I think. Definitely one of the prettiest actresses I've seen in the horror films I've watched. Also, another actor I really liked was Tom Noonan. He plays the old man in the film. The creepy old man. He does a great job of it. And this movie was probably one of my top 10 favorites that I've seen. It's a really, really good one. It's a unique one. I really like seeing a horror film made that's kind of a throwback to the early 80s slasher type films. And I would definitely recommend this one. Thanks for watching.